And welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with Jill Taylor, an old friend, a longtime friend, I will say, from what used to be the Pregnancy Support Center of Stark County. But let's start there. You have a brand new name, don't you?
Yes, we're now named Pregnancy Choices, and a tagline would be a Northeast Ohio Alliance. So we're an alliance of other centers that are out doing the work that we're doing, but we have a very specific reason for choosing that name. Sounds kind of funny when you think about pro-life, pro-choice.
That was my very next question. How did you come up with that? Because it almost sounds contradicting itself.
Right. We were in the midst of creating a name change and working with an ad agency and trying to come up with what would be the right name for our community to know us. And right before we pulled the plug and said we're going to do this with a very simple name, just Pregnancy Support, I had an ad person from New York contact me and say, I could really help you with your website. And I said, well, what's wrong with our website? And he said, there is no abortion woman who would go to your facility with that name. And
Pregnancy Support.
Yeah. Because it says you're here to just support the pregnancy.
Which is what you do.
It's what we do, but we also help people who are making that decision. And there's no way we can intervene on behalf of the woman so that she chooses something that's healthy for her and the child so that it has something healthy for that child. So anyway, in the midst of that, we began to look at some options, and we came up with Pregnancy Choices, which are, I mean, obviously you're pregnant, whether you're going to have an abortion or whether you're going to carry to term or whether you're going to place for adoption, you're pregnant. And so at that point, what are your choices? You know, what options do you have? It's kind of, Susie's kind of claiming that word back. It's a very powerful word for this generation and really for all of us. And it's certainly a powerful word for Christ. He gives us the choice to choose him or not. So it makes perfect sense to us.
I love that you said we're claiming that word back.
Yeah.
And what all choices then, when a person comes to visit you, do you really counsel them on here are your options?
Yeah. Well, first of all, we listen to what they feel are their choices. And then we can lay out information on what they're looking at. And also, yes, discuss other choices and how we can help them along the way. I think people don't realize that we are alongside of a woman for the first 2 years of that child's life with material support, formula support, classes and education, activities. So that's a pretty good span of time if you consider almost a year prior to the birth. We've got a 3-year relationship if a woman wishes to maintain that with Pregnancy Choices. So, yeah.
I think it's amazing people don't realize what all services that you provide, including support for the woman who has previously made the choice to have an abortion and then is going through some emotional trauma.
Right.
And that you're able to come alongside that person as well.
Right. Yep,
Tell us about
absolutely.
that program a little bit.
Well, we have what we call a peace group, and we have House of Hope, which is located off our campus. It's located in a different location where women will be able to walk in without having to come face to face with a woman who's, 8 months pregnant and walking out with her car seat or walking out with her maternity clothes. And that's kind of an abrupt thing for a woman to see if she is struggling with a past abortion. So we, there on that site where we have located for House of Hope, is a wonderful staff just there to meet their needs. There's a wonderful class, 10 to 11 weeks max, where they go through and they kind of deal with the issues of regret or shame or frustration or anger at the people who maybe pushed that direction when now they wish they hadn't. Just a healing kind of a thing where you talk about it and decide how you're going to deal with that in the future. And certainly it's woven through God's Word, which is a really powerful living piece for them.
Tell us about the staff. For someone to stop in, there's no judgment, is there? What kind of training have they gone through? What kind of people are they?
Well, I would say half of our staff have actually gone through the abortion experience, and some of them multiple times. That is very helpful when we have someone maybe we have a volunteer in the counseling room with a client, and that volunteer steps out and says, I've got someone who's very determined that the only thing they can do is abortion. And is there someone who would step in and talk to them about what that means, you know? And so we have 4 or 5 people on staff that we can say, hey, can you go in and just spend 5-10 minutes with this client? And that's powerful to have someone who's been there and says and can say to you, this is what you'll experience in all probability, you know.
So Pregnancy Choices, new name. That means your website is different now as well. How do we find you?
We're rolling that out in January. It should be ready to go live, and it will be Pregnancy Choices for Me is the URL. Pregnancy Choices for Me.
And is
.com.
for is spelled out FOR?
Yeah, FOR. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
PregnancyChoicesForMe.com.
.com. And it will, if you just do pregnancy choices in the Canton or, you know, Stark County area, it'll come up.
I think folks are surprised to find out all the services that you provide, and the fact that you are a medical clinic is particularly surprising to some. Talk about that a little bit.
This is very exciting for the movement of pregnancy care that's going on throughout the United States. I think it's the one criticism I would like to stand up and just say, hey, let's get our doctoral people out so you can look at them, because we use doctors who do all sorts of work in the hospitals who, of course, are licensed. And so it's not a fake clinic. It's not fake medical. I just want to make that clear. We have on staff 2 nurses right now. Probably we'll have a 3rd one by the end of the year as we begin to grow another facility down the road. That's for another show.
Okay.
But we just opened our clinic on Cleveland Avenue. We call that the Ave. It's located right across from the main post office on Cleveland Avenue. And 2645 Cleveland Avenue. We'd love to have people stop in and just see it. It's 3 units there on that strip mall. It's beautiful. Oh, sometimes I wish I had my office there. It's just gorgeous. And we've now done almost a month's worth of our clinics there on Wednesdays. The time varies according to the physician's schedule, but you can always call Pregnancy Choices at 330-455-7500, and they can let you know about the clinic. So it's great.
Please give that number one more time.
Yeah, 330-455-7500.
And when we say medical services provided, what are these medical services that you offer?
Well, the clinic is for STI, STD issues, testing, full panel test, and results then come in, and you receive a nurse's counsel on those results and treatment for something, if it's bacterial. We also do the first trimester of prenatal care and vitamins, prenatal vitamins, and actually vitamins for children up through age 5. They can come and get them free at our medical places, and which are at all 3 of our locations, one in Massillon, one on right off of Whipple on 22nd, and then the one I'm talking about called the Ave on Cleveland. We also do ultrasounds, so you can get your very earliest picture of, the pregnancy. Sometimes women they've had the pregnancy test. It looks like they're pregnant. They think they're pregnant, but it turns out not to be a viable pregnancy. It's very much worth your while to get that ultrasound done before you think about going to have an abortion, because why would you go in and have an abortion if you're not really pregnant? But if they're counting on your $500 or $600, they're probably not going to tell you that you're not pregnant.
Does that happen?
Yes, it does happen. It's a monetary thing. It's like having a doctor's appointment and you've come in for something and it's no big deal. They'll go ahead and do the procedure on you and tell you, yeah, you're all fine now.
And at any point they never say, and oh, by the way, there was not a baby?
No.
They don't tell the patient
that.
Well,
I'm gonna say that there are so many examples that we have heard of, but you go ahead and check it out nationally. Go ahead and Google it and ask, and people will tell you. Yeah, I went in and when I came out, the person who was with me said, I think I heard them say you weren't even pregnant, but they went ahead with it. It is the case.
Wow.
Yeah.
There's also something very emotional that happens once you see that ultrasound, isn't there?
Yeah.
What kind of an impact does that have on patients?
I think you believe the fallacy that it's just cells. until you see the child. And we take that for granted. We see so many ultrasounds. I assume everyone sees them, but I don't think that's the case. I think when a woman, or maybe a woman and a man who have created a child, see that very first picture, it is an aha moment. I was with a doctor who spends his entire life in the hospital up in the Akron area. He's an orthopedic surgeon, very talented man, very well versed. He received, while he was walking down the hall in the hospital, a picture of the ultrasound of his daughter's child. And he said, I had to stop. I had to stop in the hall. I leaned against the wall. I'm staring at this child, and I'm saying, this is a miracle. Now,
and even though he deals with it every day,
he looks at all sorts of medical information online, but that, when it becomes yours, means a lot. And so that's what we're trying to offer people, the opportunity to bond and to have a healthy pregnancy and a healthy relationship with a child.
I've seen them where they're waving. Honestly.
Or sucking their thumb. Or clapping their hands. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Knocking on the door. It's kind of amazing. We're going to need to take a break here in a couple of minutes, but can we begin to talk about something called the VITAL program?
Yeah, that's a brand new program. It starts this month in January, and we're working in conjunction with Sisters of Charity Foundation, and they've been terrific helping us brainstorm how this will work. It's to address the Thrive issue in Stark County. Most people don't know, but Ohio is second to last state in terms of the thriving of infants in that first year of life, especially the African American infant. And so the county that's the worst is Stark County, believe it or not. Hard to grasp.
Do we know why?
No, it's very difficult to get that kind of information. And as we kind of talk through that, you can realize that no one wants to be interviewed for how and why their child didn't live in that first year. And especially if they're vulnerable to the idea that someone might come and take their other children away if they think that they neglected, or they watered down the formula, or they didn't do the things they were supposed to do. And not that that's the reason for the Thrive issue, but it could even be that they were sleeping in the same bed and they're going to say, no, the child was over here in the crib, because they just don't want to admit something that might harm them and maybe perhaps put their other children at risk. So it's a hard topic to deal with, but the great thing we're going to be doing is working with clients all the way through their pregnancy, and they're going to be in a group, so they'll get to know each other. There will be a terrific camaraderie there. We'll be celebrating things like we'll have a shower for every client when they get to the time that it's going to be so cool. And we'll involve other organizations in these things. We'll deal with COBA will come and speak. We'll have all the WIC will come in and discuss the things they have available.
Let's go back and talk about what are those? You just said two things, COBA and WIC.
Well, WIC is the government program for medical help and formula and that sort of thing. And so anybody who's using medical support knows WIC if they're in need of help with the pregnancy issues. COBA is for African American women who are pregnant, and if they're picked up they have to be before their baby's born, and they can be a part of that program, and that's a lot of support. Those women who are working with COBA will go right to their home and help them with issues they might be having.
And all of these are going to be working with the VITAL program.
Yes.
We're speaking with Jill Taylor from Pregnancy Choices, and we'll be back on the other side. I want to talk to you about some new legislation. Really curious about this. You're listening to Our Community.